Hello everyone, how is everyone doing? I hope everyone is doing great. And today we're going to talk about proxy server. Suppose you have a meeting and for some reason you do not want to go. You send your personal assistant in that meeting. So your personal assistant is a kind of a proxy for you. So the concept of the proxy server is similar to this. There are basically two kinds of proxy server. One is forward proxy server, one is reverse proxy server. What is forward proxy server? Forward proxy server is basically the client will send the request to the forward proxy server and the forward proxy server will send the request to the actual server. The actual server will never know that the request came from a proxy server. It will think that the request came from the client. But that is not the actual client, that's a proxy client. Okay, so that is basically the forward proxy server. So forward proxy server basically hides the identity of the client. Remember that. Okay. On the other hand, the reverse proxy server basically hides the identity of the server. Server will deliberately connect to this reverse proxy server. Remember, in case of forward proxy server, the client will deliberately connect to the forward proxy server. In case of reverse proxy server, the server will deliberately connect. Okay, and the client will never know that. Client will send just the request to the server. It does not know that is actually a proxy server. The reverse proxy server will forward the request to the server and the actual server will send back the response to the reverse proxy server and reverse proxy server will send back the response to the client. So client will think the reverse proxy server is the actual server. It will never know that. So it is used for many reasons, basically to hide identity of the server. We use reverse proxy server. The client may want to hide its location, its information and many more things. Okay, even for monitoring or even for logs or caching, these proxy servers are used. Okay, so today we are going to develop our own forward proxy server and own reverse proxy server, and through that process we shall understand how they actually work. We'll have a very deep understanding of that, so let's get into that. All right, now we are going to make our own proxy servers. Okay, so that's gonna be very exciting. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe and hit the like button. Okay, so let's get started. So this is an empty project. We shall start from the scratch. Okay, so we shall basically take three projects here. One is the forward proxy server. So we shall name it forward proxy and then reverse proxy and then of course we shall need a server. So this is of course a node project. Okay, so initially what we shall do, basically we shall set up the server. Okay, so let's go inside the server and here first we shall do the npm initialization, basically npm init -y, and it will basically create the package json file as you can see here. Okay, now let's install a package, basically express. So express is installed. Now let's create a file, basically index.js. So we shall write all the code here. Index.js will be our starting file. Okay. So first let's import the Express from the Express package. So now we need the app, and when we shall call the express function, we shall get the app. Now let's listen to a specific port. Okay. So we'll basically listen to port 3001, and here in the callback, we'll basically give a console log that the server is connected. Server is running on port 3001. Okay, so it's a simple Express server. Now we shall create a get API point basically, and it will be at the root slash only. Okay, and here we shall get the request and response, and from this we will send a simple response. Okay, so response dot status, and we shall give 200 status and send a simple message like response from the server. Okay, so far so good. So let's see if it is actually working. So let's run this. So let's run node index.js, and it is giving cannot use import statement outside module. So we need to change something in the package.json. Here in the type, it will be module. Now if you run it, it is supposed to work. So we shall do basically index.js, node index.js, and it is running. Okay, server is running on port 3001. So let's test this path. Okay, this API path. So for that, we shall create another terminal. Okay, and here we shall do curl. Okay, what is curl? Curl is basically a command line way of sending request to the server. So here we shall do http://localhost 3001. So when we shall send this request to this server, basically this 3001 port, as you can see here, okay, we are supposed to get this response. Okay, so let's see if we get that. And here you can see we got the response from this server. It's great, right? So our server is working. It's a simple server. Okay, now let's set up our forward proxy and reverse proxy. So for that, we have to go to the forward proxy. So let's go to the forward proxy server. We are going to set up the forward proxy server. Okay. So again, we have to do npm init-y and it will create the package.json file as you can see here. Now we shall install some packages like npm install express and Axios. Okay. So this is installed. Now let's create a index.js file. So we have got an index.js file here in the forward proxy. So let's close the server index.js. And of course, in the package.json, we need to change it to module. Okay. And here index.js, we shall import basically the express from express, just like before. And we shall create the app and we shall listen to a specific port. Okay, and this port will be basically 3000. Okay, remember the server's port is 3001. The forward proxy's port we have kept 3000. Okay, so let's give a callback here basically. So let's console log here, console log forward proxy is running on port 3000. Okay, so far so good. See, here in this terminal, we have our server running, and in this terminal, now we are running the forward proxy server. Let's just check that if it is working. Okay, so it is working, it is running. Okay, fair enough. So the proxy server, as I have already said, it takes a request and it passes the request. Okay, so this forward proxy, it will basically hide the identity of the client. So the client will basically send the request to the forward proxy server. Forward proxy server will send the request to the server. Okay, so now here in this forward proxy server, we need to set a method, an API method that will basically get any kind of request. So here in the Express.js, we have a function called all. So app.all basically it will take any kind of request like get request, post request, put, delete, any kind of request. Okay. And for any path, we shall catch that. So for that, we shall use a regular expression here. And this basically means any kind of path. Okay. And here we have the request and the response. Now we shall implement this method. Okay. So remember the forward proxy server, the client will send the request. And in that request, there has to be the actual server's URL so that the proxy server can grab that URL and it can send the request in that URL. Okay, so we can send it like a query parameter, just like this. So it will be something like this: curl http://localhost 3000. Okay, so it is basically sending the request to the forward proxy server from the client. And here, this is our client. Okay, basically this terminal is our client. Okay, and we are doing this curl from here. So remember that. Now the client is sending the request. Where it is sending the request? In the 3000 port. Basically, this is the forward proxy server. In this 3000 port, it is running. Okay, so now what we shall do basically, we shall create a query parameter like the URL is equal to http://localhost 3001. This is the URL of the actual server. Okay, and we are passing it to this method. So here in the request query parameter, we shall get that. So we have to catch that. So we shall get that as URL here. So in the request object, it will be there query.url. Okay, so let's console log that, console log the URL, and let's see if it actually sends this URL here. Okay, so let's see that. So let's hit enter and it is saying no matches found. So basically we have to put this inside double quotation as we have sent a query parameter. That is why. Now let's hit enter. So it is saying fail to connect to local port 3000. So 3000 is not running here. So let's run it. Basically this is the forward proxy server. Okay. So node index.js and here in the 3000 port the forward proxy server is running. Now from the client, let's send the request. Okay, with this query parameter. So the request has sent, it is hanging here. So let's go to the server. And here we have got this 3001 localhost 3001. Basically, we got this URL. It console logged this. Okay, so we have got our URL. Now what we shall do basically, we shall send a request in that URL. So for that, we need the Axios. And here we shall pass the URL. So to use the Axios, first we need to import the Axios. So here in this Axios configuration, we need to pass few more properties like the headers. So it will be just the request dot headers. Okay. So whatever the request came from the user, that will be inside this request object. So from that, we shall get the headers and we are sending that headers. Okay. And now we need to also set the method. So let's set the method request.method. And also if there is any data, so that will be in the request.body, we need to pass that. Okay. So our Axios call is done and it will be of course an asynchronous call. So let's avoid that and let's use async here. So far so good. And here this Axios call will basically send the request in this URL. So it will get a response. Okay, that response we need to send back to the client. Okay, so let's do that. So here we shall get the response from the actual server. Okay, so now we shall send the response from here to the client. So here we have the res, basically this res response. It will be the response.status. Okay, whatever the status came from the actual server. And then we shall send the response data. Okay, whatever data came from the actual server. Okay, so far so good. Our forward proxy server is done. Okay, this is a very simple basic forward proxy server. Now let's send a request. And what we shall do basically, so let's first check if the forward proxy is running. So let's run this. Now it is running. And from here, we shall send a request. Okay, it is basically this request. We are sending this request and we are passing this URL. So before running that, what we shall do basically, let's keep this index.js of the server side by side so that we can get the full picture. So my guess is when we run this, we are supposed to get this response from the server. So let's run this and let's see. Let's hit enter and see we got this response from the server. Okay, so what it did basically, it sent the request here and it got the URL. Then it sent the request to this URL, basically this server, this 3001 port, okay, with the help of this Axios call. So this response came back into this response object, okay, and that response is sent here, basically this data back to the client, and that is why we have got it here, response from this server. So now you can see what is a forward proxy server, how it actually works. Okay, so I hope the forward proxy server is clear. Now we shall create a reverse proxy server, and the reverse proxy server basically hides the identity of the server. Okay, so let's create the reverse proxy server, and conceptually they are kind of similar. So most of the things basically we shall copy paste from here. So let's first set up the reverse proxy server. So it is still empty. So from here, let's go to the reverse proxy server and let's do npm init. So we have the package.json here. Now let's install the Express and the Axios, just like the forward proxy server. Now let's create this index.js file. So we have the index.js here. Now what we shall do basically, we shall copy paste from this forward proxy server. Okay, so let's go to this index and we shall just paste it. So we need to change few things here. First, we need to change this port. We shall keep the port 4000 for the reverse proxy server. So it will be 4000 and here it will be reverse proxy server. Okay, so far so good. And rest of the things are kind of similar. Now here we need to change few things. Okay, few small tweak we need. So first let's run this. Let's check if it is working. It will not work because we need to do the module thing here. So the module is done. Now it is supposed to run. Fair enough. Now let's do a curl. So what will happen here? The user does not know that there is a proxy server in between, and the server is deliberately connected to that server, basically that proxy server, reverse proxy. So the server URL will be fixed here. Okay, so that will be basically http://localhost 3001. Now let's send this request. Okay, and when we shall send this request, it will basically go to this server, basically this API method, and here it will send this Axios call to this server, which is basically this one. So let's put it side by side. So this is the server. Okay, this is the 3001 port. So now let's run it. Let's see. My guess is that it will just give this response from the server to the client. So let's hit enter. So before doing that, let's check if the reverse proxy is running. It is not running. Let's run this. And here it is running. Now let's hit enter. It gave the response from the server. Okay, so what it did basically, it sent the request to this server here, and it sent the request to this URL, basically this 3001 port by this Axios, and here it got this response back inside this response, and this response data is sent here through this response object, and it got back to this client. Okay, so this is how it is working. So our reverse proxy is also implemented. All right. So again, I mean, this is a very basic reverse proxy server. So I hope you got the idea how the forward proxy server and the reverse proxy server works. Now, if you want to use in your project the reverse proxy server, okay, there is a very good package called http-proxy-middleware. You can use that. That's a very nice one. So let's see. Let's check that. So let's implement that package here, okay, in the reverse proxy server. And we shall do that only for the reverse proxy server. Okay, reverse proxy server is basically used mostly. The forward proxy server is not used that much. Why? Because the client can use the VPN, and the idea of the VPN and the forward proxy server is almost similar. I'm asking you, you tell me in the comment section what is the difference between the VPN and the forward proxy server. So let's learn from you too. So let's go to the reverse proxy, and here let's install a package npm install http proxy middleware. Okay, so now we do not need the Axios anymore. We can use this package. Okay, so let's import that package. And here we have a function called create proxy middleware. Okay. And here we do not need this anymore. Rather, what we shall do, basically, we shall use a middleware. So we shall call the use function. So we have the request, response, and next here in the middleware. And of course, we shall have the URL. And this URL is basically the server URL. And here we shall call this create proxy middleware function. And we shall pass the target. Basically, target is the URL. And we shall also say that change origin to true. As the request is being sent to another URL, we need to change the headers according to that, and change origin will do that. Okay, so that's why we have set it to true. Now this will give us the proxy middleware, okay, middleware function basically. And here we shall just call it proxy middleware, and we shall pass all these things here, all the request, response, and next. Request, comma, response, comma, next. Okay, and that's done. So now this is our reverse proxy server. Okay, so we can test it. Let's do a test. Let's run it first. So reverse proxy server is running. Now let's do a curl to http://localhost 4000. See, we got the response from this 3001 port. Okay, so I hope you have got a very nice picture how the forward proxy server and reverse proxy server works. Okay, so in the next lecture, we will see how we can use NGINX as a reverse proxy server. Okay, because in production, the NGINX server is used a lot. We generally don't create a proxy server. There is already an application, NGINX, which is quite good. Okay, and how to do that, we shall see that. So don't forget to subscribe, and if you like the video, give it a like. See you in the next lecture.